Google Certified Educator Level 1 training. I am your facilitator, Sonia Hartley, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today just to give my perspective on what it would take for you to get through the process of receiving your Level 1 certification. Now, this is my personal perspective, what's worked for me, and I hope everything that I'm presenting to you will benefit you at least to a certain extent. So I'm going to go ahead and go straight into the objective, and it states that the key objectives of this training are to support a variety of needs and skill levels essential to move participants towards successfully attaining their Google Educator Level 1 certification. So I'm speaking to you. You have different levels. We've reviewed the various levels of different applications in G Suite. So we'll just have to take this as an approach of differentiation. That's something as educators that we're already familiar with, and we'll see what's needed for each individual. Then I'm also looking at the training being here to encourage participants to incorporate G Suite for education applications into their professional and instructional practices. So that will really technically be to your key to success, because if you're incorporating, especially those that you're not as familiar with, it will just get you to the end of this journey. As I titled my first session, it's a journey for me, and I know as a busy educator there can be various different things that come in the way that keep you from being on a certain pace that you probably would be able to navigate around if you're in the middle of the summer or during a break, which was the case for me. Level 1 was during the summer, and I needed that because I was not aware of just what Google for education was all about. I just knew minimal, and I was introduced to it all within a short period of time. I was aware that the district had various resources for that, but I was one of the teachers that took everything with a stride and I used it as I thought fit, but I was not aware just how resourceful Google for Education is to us as educators or administrators or anyone in the building that is servicing the school district or the students within. So it has a twofold purpose because it not only helps us, it helps everyone else around us. So we're going to look at the skill overview, um, the pace that we need to keep to finish, and at each session towards the end, I will point out the various skills that you should already have before you come into session 2, because it will keep you on pace. The sharing is caring is a way for me to, on the day after, to follow up. The link that I share where I'll go live is for you to be able to bring your knowledge to the table, for us to be able to share and benefit from each other. And that's why I gave myself the title as facilitator, because I'm not the trainer. I'm the person that makes sure that you are able to add to this particular training. So moving forward, these are the various different things that work for me. My approach that got me through level 1, the training, self-taught in a sense, without realizing that there was help out there. And I'll just share that with you. The wake-up call for me was the fact that I did not realize that there are no shortcuts. I just thought I'd be able to go down the list through the training online and just pass every module, then go to the actual certification assessment and then finish it and I'll be done. But it just didn't work like that because it's an applied skill. So looking at it more so from that perspective, no different than if you were teaching a group of students, you know that application is really the best way of learning. So I incorporated G Suite in my daily routines. There were various things that I felt like I needed: Google Docs, Google Forms, sheets for that I could incorporate in my classroom, as well as certain things that I was doing to keep myself organized. But I didn't even just feel that creating just to create was just a waste of time. So I started just creating because I was excited about the different things that I learned, but those were just files sitting in my drive and I had no purpose for them. So that's what made me think about, whatever that I create needs to be something I can move on and continue using regardless of which application it is. There's something in an adult life, in a professional's life, that you can use at some point in time, maybe even utilizing it for creating a budget or something that you may have to use to go to the grocery store. Just make it functional. So that was the big idea, and it went ahead and allowed for me to work smart versus working hard. I was able to pace myself because that's just the type of person I am. I have to have a plan at hand so I wouldn't feel overwhelmed, and breaking it down in sections was the key for me. I made myself a list of things as I would go through my day and things that I knew that I needed to have to prepare for the school year. I still do that now. I just make sure that I follow the list so I will not, uh, as I would say, be distracted, because I'd constantly catch myself going into creating and then I wouldn't really get anything done. And like I said, that was the summer and we do certain things in the summer different. That was my level one, but for level two, I already knew that would not work because I was at that point in time at work. I took notes as I went through the training. Nothing within just writing entire sentences. No, I was just um, quick tips, resources, certain things that I knew I would probably forget if I didn't write it down. I used highlighters. I did just the traditional, no different than I would if I was preparing for a class in high school or in college, grad school. So I had my notes. I immediately put my skills to use. If I learned how to do something in Google Docs, maybe change the background color of my particular page, or change or add more fonts that weren't available, certain things that I just picked up along the way, I utilized that skill immediately because I knew as a working adult there would be a pretty good chance I wouldn't be able to come back to it. And as I utilized it immediately, it edged itself into my brain. So I used every resource available, and I don't want to exaggerate, but there are so many, because there's so many various trainers out there that have videos, the short ones that only last 30 seconds to those that last an hour and a half. And I'll be honest with you, I've watched a lot of 30-second, 60-second videos, and I've sat there and I've listened and watched many that lasted for over an hour. So obviously this is something of interest to me. So, I'm not expecting everyone to feel the same way, but this is just what worked for me. And I also applied um, I incorporated my own interests. For example, I created a checklist for my son's and soon to be daughter in law's wedding. So the checklist within Google Sheets. And of course, I had to find my own resources because I was not anything I was familiar with, but now I'm more comfortable with Google Sheets because in the content I teach social studies. That's not, Google Sheets not something that we use often. So I had to find something that would um, make me more familiar with Google Sheets. And last but not least on this list that I have for you today, I want you to be the student that you are expecting your students to be. So consistent, apply your knowledge and incorporate it in your day to day. So make sure that you make the best of this because it's time invested. It definitely is time invested. So if you already know what you're doing really well on, then, follow my checklist. I have a skills checklist that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes. And then that way you're able to narrow it down. And I hope, as we're going into this, that you're able to share some of the things that you may have picked up here and there. If you don't, then as you're discovering and you're creating, there's something that you could share with us down the line. And we can share within the classroom certain things that you would like for us to benefit from, and we're so welcome. Here's the skill checklist that I refer to, and I wanted to just make the mystery disappear. These checklists are all over Google. They're everywhere, and various trainers and educators are using these to inventory what either they already are familiar with or what they need to work on. So I created a actual checklist, and I'll show you a little more in detail. So these are all the various applications. Some we utilize more frequently in our school district, and some are more so dormant or something that we don't use regularly, not within the classroom, maybe as administrators could be possibly that we use them more, but the breakdown is right here. So just a little quick lesson. I shifted around so many things and I've adjusted and personalized that I literally took away the feature of having the table of content shift to where the topic is. Well, that one is right here. Let's see if this one, it pulled me down. Okay, so I've modified this to the point where I have to readjust. So that was the last one is Google Drive. I literally have to do all of them. And if you didn't know how to do this, then here you go. It has to be, you see, I realize right now, it has to be, the original has to be a headline or it will not connect. If as long as it's normal text, it will not. So the original has to be, and I said Google Drive, and it's right here, and that will link it. So I'm going to, once I complete this, and I can do a little more, just in case you didn't catch this. And it's not particularly a level 1 skill, but my belief is that as you're going through these various applications, you will acquire the skills that you need for level 1 and bits and pieces to prepare you for level 2. So Google Documents, and it worked. So you notice that some are in the black lettering, and then there's some in blue with the font italicized. And I did that, and I'm going to go slowly. You'll see some have more, some have less, because these are some of the skills that I do recall were more advanced and level 2. So if you find a patience or you know this, then this is perfect because you can go ahead and scaffold and you can go ahead and move forward and attain a skill that you need for your level 2. One of the features I put on here just for you is if you click on it twice, you're able to check these off. I thought that was the neatest thing when I first, you have to click on it twice or it's going to grab all of them. And you can check off the skills that you already know. So you can maximize your time by going through the checklist and you go down, look at the Google Apps. There are some, as I'm going into it, that are actually like for this one, for example, create your classroom roster with groups and contacts. Let me point that out. Right now, our school district does not utilize groups until further notice. You will have to learn this feature in um, oh, well, it's blocked through the district, but you can access it from home. And that's why I was able to create a Google group because there will be, and I'm pretty sure, at least a question or something in regards to Google Groups in context in the level one assessment, but it may not because all those questions are shuffled and randomized. So use Classroom app on tablet. That's definitely not anything that I recall even being in the training that's provided by Google, the online module. So the grade Google Classroom assignments, those are features that are more on level two. And the contacts uh, are connected to Google Groups. So this will definitely be a reminder for you to check into it. But if you're at work, it wouldn't work anything with Google Groups. So definitely don't skip over it. But this is my reminder to you, hey, this is something I need to tackle from home. And Hangouts, both text and video hangouts have had some recent changes, especially as they are not really linking to um, YouTube as they did prior. Then looking into Google Calendar and some of the, for example, the use resource calendar to reserve items. That's something that's more personalized. It's a great idea. I didn't take it off because I felt like it will benefit you. And going down into Google Search, Google Chrome, which I do remember all of these things within the assessment. YouTube is a definite biggie. It is. And you see several tasks that you have to uh, be proficient at or even master, be at the master level. And Google Plus, minimal. Google Help generally is your resource. That is your resource if you just get to the point where you are frustrated and you don't understand what you're actually looking for. Because Google Help they will explain it better probably sometimes than any other person unless they're actually showing you. Now I will say that Google Help will not show you any videos, but there are a plethora of videos available on YouTube, so please utilize that. The last portion is the digital citizenship, and every last one of these will be possibly incorporated. I do remember some things about um, the understanding the privacy, and especially since YouTube has a totally different privacy um, policy now. So, so this is just something I'll share with you. It's important for you to take a look to make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself with things that you already know. And it's even more important to realize that if I don't know these things, it's time for me to grab my resources, check with Miss Hartley or someone else that may be able to help me so I won't get frustrated and move forward. So this is one portion that I'm going to share. And I need to uncheck those, of course, because this is the master copy that I will share with you all. Okay, so I'm back. And you're probably like, so what about the pacing? You've talked about pacing. I haven't seen anything about pacing, but in due time. So, as another resource that I utilize that I've seen a number of times on various websites, resource pages. Let me go to it. And I adjusted it towards what we need in our school district with the time frame that we have available. So this right here is a suggested study schedule, and that's where the pacing is coming from. So I am going to run over this really, really briefly because I want to be respectful of your time. And it basically breaks down some of the things that were in the skill checklist sheet, and it is minimized, but it also provides the links right here to the Edu Training Center that Google provides for us educators. So I did the best I could because I did not want the training to go past 5 weeks. 5 weeks technically could be nerve-wracking for someone, but I wanted, like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. So these four, the first four will be for week one, which we're in now, and I looked at it and I feel that the majority of the participants had mentioned that these are some of the skills they already have, but take a look and it has the same feature on here where you can check off if you choose to, but this is just more so for me, not really for you, but I want you to have access. You may not have a copy, you can make your own copy. And there's week two, and I've combined again, I've chunked these because many of these may already be familiar to you, but I wanted to make sure that within the 30-minute time that I've put aside for these sessions that you will have, especially if you let me know which ones you want to know more about. And lastly, as we're going into week 3 and 4, 4 is basically dedicated uh, towards some of the tips and preparations into going for preparing preparations and preparing. Okay. Uh, the things that we have to do to get ready for the assessment, and not to just really just take it out of proportion, because level one, in my opinion, is fairly easy in comparison to level two. There's more detail involved, but I just want you to be aware of what the pacing looks like, and I'll have that in Google Classroom as well. And as I mentioned, I am not reinventing the wheel. I'm utilizing the wheel someone else invented, and I'm modifying it and adjusting it to what works for us. All right, so here is the Google Classroom for our team, as I call it. Then I have created a feedback, and that's for me. And if you didn't read this prior, and if you're not aware, I'm working on my uh, trainer certification, and this is part of the process of my case study. And let me go back here and present. Okay. And I've added this as well. These are the various things that you should already be familiar with going into session two. By session two, if you checked all that off, you're good to go. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message or we can cover it tomorrow during the live and we'll take it from there. But in my opinion, they're fairly basic topics and skills. All right, your tech tips, my tech tips. Um, they're not really tech tips, but I do want to reiterate that taking notes, making notations of any skill that you feel not as comfortable with will prepare you for the assessment because there's nowhere that it states you're not able to utilize your resources. You can actually have a second computer sitting with you, another monitor sitting with you, but uh, the tip of all tips with this is the 180 minutes that are allotted for both assessments. You will utilize them unless you are just a Google genius. And it's just because it it's a skill-based assessment. So you have multiple choice involved, but you also are assessed on the skills and how you're navigating and utilizing it. And there's no formula for it because each one of us uses different ways to access Google Drive and various files, how we open them. There's so many options. The the concept is more so, are you able to complete each step. And this is something that I work with my students because following directions has become to be a, a lot more difficult than maybe generations ago. But definitely, if you know how to follow directions and you are able to display that you're mastering the skill, then you should be okay. So it's technically not a tech tip, but it's a big tip. Make sure that you keep your notes for things that you're not that comfortable with, because if you keep pushing out the date then of taking the assessment, I, in my opinion, it's not going to get any better unless you're constantly using it. And at that point in time, you should be ready. All right, so the resources that I have available, of course, the live chat will be up on Friday, which is if you I'm filming this another day, but it'll be available on Friday. I will post a link in Google Classroom. I'm still in between going live on YouTube or a different application or software that toyed around with because I want to be able to record the live. But if you're familiar with with YouTube, my apologies, then they've taken away the feature where you could record your live session. So that's no longer available. And there are certain restrictions on Hangout as well. Just really depends on um, the features that the school district um, signed up for. So please ask questions. Please, please, please provide feedback. I've that I'm adding this presentation, and you can click on this link and it will take you straight to the short survey. It's just 4 questions and possible feedback that you could give me. um, your skill checklist can be found in Google Classroom as well, and please utilize that so you can see if you need to work on certain skills, and maybe we can narrow down what our focus needs to be for the next 4 weeks, about remaining 4 weeks. And I will add resources, certain videos that I felt like where straight and short to the point, avoiding for you having to go find them, because I've looked at a lot of them and I've started creating playlists in my YouTube on my YouTube channel, and they're easier for me to access because I've already watched them. And I will make an attempt at, and I've done a couple of videos, but I'm trying to get better and better and utilize my time better when it comes to finding my wording and communicating. So this is an experience for me as well. And I look forward to speaking hopefully to all of you at one point in time. And if you have any questions, suggestions, anything that I can help you with, see, I've got my helpful tools right there. And you'll notice that I really love using emojis, and the students really like emojis and GIFs and memes. So it makes it a little more fun, and I utilize those with the adults as well. So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to speaking each and every one of you at one point in time in the near future. Thank you.